Hey there, welcome back to Science Fiction. I'm Salim Suterwalla, and always I'm joined by Carl Eames. Carl, how's it going?
Good. I see we got the memo today to wear Spider-Man related
I
t-shirts.
did. I always like to wear my Spider-Man related shirts whenever I can. So you just decided to keep up with me.
Yeah, there you go. I'm sure you have way more than I do.
I do. I have so many Spider-Man related shirts that I have lost count. every time I go to like a Kohl's or a Target. Hey there, Cliff. How's it going, man? Thanks again for hopping on with us. Um, yeah, anytime I go to like a Kohl's or a Target, I beeline to the T-shirt area just to see if they have any cool comic book shirts, and then I usually end up getting at least one Spider-Man shirt, which probably isn't a smart idea. I'm gonna run out of space for shirts. I'm gonna have just like a house full of Spider-Man T-shirts at some point. Who knows? These don't last too
Mhm.
long, so probably
Yeah,
not a
there's
bad
that.
investment. It's probably not a bad investment to not investment, but just for myself. To that way I don't run out of Spider-Man related uh attire.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
should do like I do when I buy shirts. I always like if I most recently bought about 5 or 6 shirts a couple months ago. So I have my rotation of shirts here, and then I take out the same amount of shirts that I just bought and then rotate those into be like pajama shirts to wear
Okay.
around the house or workout shirts or something like that. And then I take some of those old workout shirts and then I demote them and I'll either donate them to like Goodwill or to my nephews, or they'll be like really rag towels, or I'll just toss them in the trash because they're by that point they're all faded away and all ripped up and stuff like this. This shirt's like pretty much I should have gotten rid of it a long time ago because it's all cracked up and stuff, but it's kind of hard to replace this one. And I really like this one because it's from the game. Excuse me, the game. So
Okay.
I have a hard time letting it go.
I have I have one of those the dry fit Spider-Man shirts that I still have. Um I really like it. Like it's just one of those like you can kind of wear in the summer when it's like super thin. You can wear like it's you're in around the house just when you're really warm and you don't want to wear anything too heavy. It's a nice shirt. I like it. But yeah, uh, anything else new with you? I think going great.
Just trying to finish up some of these figures. I just finished up a couple, one today and one yesterday, and other than that, I think I'm taking my official break very soon from painting and doing all this stuff. Other than that, ready to work like pretty much for the next week, 1 week straight, and yeah, just doing some other stuff.
Nice, nice. A random thing regarding movies. I decided to try to watch A Wrinkle in Time because I never watched it. It's on Disney Plus.
Okay,
It's not a Disney Plus movie, but like it's Disney, so it's on Disney Plus, and I turned it off after like a half hour into it. It was just so bad and cringy. I'm like,
really,
yeah, this isn't for me. I was like, this is just really really bad. I can't watch this anymore. It was just such a goofy movie. I was like, yeah, I think I'm done. And I rarely turn off movies. Like I sat through Morbius. like, so I mean, it was just really super weird and cringy. I was like, what's going on here? What is this movie? Like, why is this happening? So yeah, I ended up turning it off. But speaking of sci-fi movies or uh, those type of movies in general, we both watched Multiverse of Madness. Um, I liked it. I haven't actually asked you about it. I never text you. I don't know if you liked it, but we'll get into that. Uh, so we're just gonna focus on that. We don't have any fast flicks or anything like that. We just want to talk all multiverse of madness, Doctor Strange, and all that jazz. But first, we are gonna play the final Doctor Strange trailer, just in case if anyone hasn't missed it, so you get a little bit more context for the movie. And just to let you know, we are gonna give spoilers for the
yeah,
movie. So Don't want anyone if you haven't seen it yet, I would recommend you not listening to us. Or if you don't care about spoilers, keep listening and watching. But yeah, here's the trailer.
I'm sorry, Stephen. Your reckoning is long overdue. I hope you understand. The greatest threat to our universe is you. The Illuminati will see you now.
I could use an Avenger.
There are other Avengers.
Come on. Every night, I dream the same dream. And then, the nightmare begins.
You cannot control everything, Strange. You opened the doorway between universes. And we don't know who or what will walk through it.
Wanda. The multiverse. It's life or death.
We will see what kind of Doctor Strange you are.
Everything you've ever known led you to this moment. I don't even want to know.
This is going to be fun.
I always suspected this day would come.
Because you always suspected this day would come. This is the only way. I'm ready.
You break the rules. Become a hero. I do it, I become the enemy. It doesn't seem fair.
We should tell him the truth.
I did what I had to do.
Well, that's something.
You're wondering what happens now.
Alrighty, that was the final trailer. I didn't know what was going on there. I was like, did somebody take over our show? What's going on? No.
That trailer
you know,
was like the whole movie. I'm really glad I
it
didn't
was.
watch it before the
Yeah,
movie came
I,
out.
no, I
'Cause
I did not watch that final trailer. It's yeah, I definitely because I heard that there's a lot of like stuff in that trailer. It's like I don't know why they would release that. Like it's so stupid. Why would they release a trailer like that? Like you're ruining the
Mhm.
movie.
Mhm.
But the first just thinking of watching this trailer right now again, and the first thing I'm gonna do when I get a chance to watch the movie uh again, like at home, I'm gonna pause every split second when they're going through the different dimensions because the universes just to see if there's anything you miss, like a character or like a random thing
So
that
what
you
did you
missed.
think you saw based if from what you remember?
It's hard. It was so quick. Like I obviously like the one thing we remember is this. I think everyone pretty much thinks that's the Savage Land. Um,
Which it could be. It might not be, but it's cool.
yeah, but yeah, it was so hard. Like it was just so hard to notice. Like anything, just 'cause things were going so fast. Like that was even faster than like the multiverse splitting, um, in No Way Home because you could at least make out some silhouettes. but it was hard to see in this because they're just so quick that they're running through it. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna want to pause every one just to see if there's anything in there that we're missing.
Yeah, there
But
was at
yeah,
least the animated one, that
right.
animated universe. There was one where they were like liquid or paint or whatever.
Rat Plane. That was cool.
Um,
That was like,
that was like the dinosaurs of Savage Land or whatever.
hmm
There was one that was like really high tech futuristic, with a lot of people believing that is like possibly Nueva York, like Spider-Man 2099. Like some
okay.
people are saying that, and I'm not saying I agree or anything. Just again, just split second. There was what was the other one? Oh, those are the ones that stick out to me in the very least. Obviously, the animated one is interesting in the paint. I think there was another one that was like kind of high tech New York, but I like super advanced because there was like a bunch of tubes and stuff. But other than that, those are the ones that stick out to me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I remember those things. I just meant more so like actually like seeing that there's any other like character that
Yeah.
is supposed to be in there. That's what more so I meant. Um, but yeah, let's get into our thoughts on the movie before we talk about like various Easter eggs and just general uh little things that we liked throughout the movie. So first, I'll let you go first. What were your thoughts on the movie overall, and like what did you think of everything as far as the directing, the cast, performances, all that stuff?
One, I absolutely love this movie. And it was a lot, mostly on like let's say the factors of Sam Raimi. This is like the most Sam Raimi movie that I've seen personally. Now I don't have like a whole lot of experience with Sam Raimi, but I do like, for anyone like who's just watching superhero movie stuff and you forgot, he directed Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire and Spider-Man
Right.
2 and Spider-Man 3. And that was the last time he really worked within the comic book realm there. And there's definitely Sam Raimi touches in those movies, uh, as far as his art style, his art direction, his camera directions and stuff like that, and just like the way he films movies, it's in there. But you can only do so much with Spider-Man, and especially back then, there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity for him to really flex and flesh out his own creative techniques and art direction with those Spider-Man movies. It's like a little bit with Green Goblin and a little bit with Doc Ock, like a little bit more, like Doc Ock's origin, when you see all the stuff like the arms going crazy, and the glass breaking, and going towards his wife and stuff like that. Those are all like very Sam Raimi like things in the Spider-Man 2. But for the rest of the movie, there's really not a whole lot of Sam Raimi as compared to like say watching Evil Dead or Army of
Mhm.
Darkness or any of those other movies. This Multiverse of Madness is like so strongly, like it's like Kevin Feige said, Sam, do whatever you want and go crazy. You just can't make it, rated R, and make it PG-13. And I know you can do that and do whatever you want. And he just let him go. And there was so many great so many great camera angles, like that picture that we just had up. Like it's not perfectly framed. It's just like a little bit to the side, and that's just part of like what he does with the camera and introducing shots and introducing moments. It's like partly the emotion, the shock of this moment. Like it's storytelling with the camera and not just with the actors. So there's a lot of that in this movie, and I absolutely loved every single shot like that, every single like little scare or whatever, because the movie is not scary. Like it's not a scary movie, but it is a horror movie. And I know they were like billing it as the first horror movie within the MCU, and I think it lives up to that. But it's just not a scary movie, and I'm totally fine with that, in any kind of way. But absolutely loved it. I think Scarlet Witch,
Maybe more of
Elizabeth
like a
Olsen.
thriller.
Yeah, something
More
like
of a
that.
thriller.
That's fine. Yeah, I think Elizabeth Olsen knocked it out of the park. I thought she was outstanding. I thought Benedict Cumberbatch was fantastic as well. A lot of great visual effects and some pretty good fight scenes as well. There's a whole lot to discuss. So many shots that you needed a lot for a discussion. Yeah, it's just so many things that can be analyzed about particular moments, particular camera shots in this movie that I can just gush over. And I'll get into my gripes a little bit later because I do have it. I don't think it's a perfect movie by any stretch. I don't think it was. I wouldn't say it's definitely not one of the best Marvel movies, but for me personally, my favorite Marvel movie is Black Panther, which I also don't say is the best Marvel movie. It's just my favorite one. I walked out of the theater contemplating whether or not I want this to be my new favorite one because I absolutely love, like I said, I love so many of the shots. I love so many of the moments with Wanda. I love so much with Strange and then the multiverse, the Illuminati, and so on. So it's getting up there, and I definitely can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah, I, mean, I agree with you everything you said. You know, I was mostly like my biggest thing was confusion on why people like disliked it so much. There was a lot of people, like critics especially, like and not to say like on Rotten Tomatoes, it got like I think like a 79%, which obviously isn't bad necessarily, but you would think it would be higher because like this movie was I thought it was pretty well done. I know they shortened it not too long ago, and maybe I think maybe some people's gripe was that it was too short because it didn't leave opportunity to flesh out some points. Maybe I don't know, um, but like for me, like yeah, like everything, like the acting, like as far as the chemistry between the cast, like right away, it's interesting. Like you see America Chavez and Stephen Strange meet, and they click like in a sense right away. That chemistry between them as two leading people in the movie is there right away on screen. And then going into more of the storyline, no, it's like it's the storyline just right away takes off, and it's just constant going things that are happening. Um, the visuals, like you said, were fantastic. I mean, I think, like I said, Sam Raimi, you could definitely tell this is a Sam Raimi movie. We're going to get into a more example of that later in the show when we talk about some of his past movies. But yeah, like I really enjoyed the movie. I couldn't think of too many like issues with it per se. Um, but for me, like I said, like I said, I really enjoyed it, and like I was surprised at how dark it was. Like I know Sam Raimi has that in his repertoire, like as a director, but it is still MCU. And when I think about it, though, now the Phase 4 is kind of getting darker. Like they're doing more and more dark stuff. Like obviously, No Way Home ended pretty dark. Um, we're seeing if anyone's watching Moon Knight, that's a fairly dark series. Like I mean, not super dark, but like it's dark in a sense of getting into certain aspects of the things that they're doing in that show is dark. And then obviously this movie is again dark, and obviously they're going to be doing more things later on in Phase 4 that are going to continuously go in that route. So yeah, that was interesting to me as well, as far as that aspect.
Yeah, it's definitely the most violent MCU movie to date.
Right, right.
Given what we just got out of Moon Knight, which I was actually expecting more out of that in that department with Moon Knight, which we'll probably talk about next week. But this movie absolutely, I mean, it's just a couple of scenes. It's not like the entire movie is super violent, but what they did is pretty violent.
No, exactly. And I mean they kind of teetered around that rated R. Like I mean, just because like they just kept it a certain stuff out that would push it to the rated R
Right.
rating because like obviously certain level of gore they didn't allow. But yeah, like I said, it gets it was like pleasantly like darker than I expected it to be. That's probably one of my favorite parts of the movie because again they're doing something different than what they've normally done in the MCU. The MCU has been generally pretty light, family friendly for the most part. Even the PG-13 movies are PG-13 mostly just because of like the action and violence, not any gore or any like um, at like stuff like that could like scare you and like a scare a kid at least like right if you could generally take you can generally take like like an 8 7 year old to MCU movie and it'll be fine but this one might be depending on the kid maybe you don't want to take him because he could maybe have nightmares on certain pictures and scenes and things like that so yeah I really liked it overall but as we're getting more into the movie itself now we're going to be talking about Easter eggs so again we are going to be giving away spoilers we're going to be talking about certain points of the movies that we liked and Easter eggs that stuck out to us so just want to let anyone know that is continuing to listen that hasn't watched the movie you might want to turn us off I mean we don't want you to turn
later.
us come back later and then, like I said, we don't want you to just leave us and never come back, but just want to warn you because we don't want to be mean and give away spoilers on a movie that you're definitely going to be watching. But so for the first one, like I liked, they mentioned the Baxter Foundation, and that's when they get to the uh, the other universe, the eight. I forget. Was it
838.
838.
Mhm.
They get to there, and Christine is a scientist working at the Baxter Foundation. So basically, the Baxter Foundation in the comics is the institute founded by Franklin Storm. That is Sue Storm's father, and Sue Storm is one of the Fantastic Four, the Invisible Woman, and and it's located in the comics. It's located in Manhattan, New York. So when like Franklin Storm and Sue Storm, they meet Reed Richards and Ben Grimes at like a function or a science fair. They end up offering him like an opportunity to join the research team, and essentially that's where a lot of top-notch scientists and research scientists work at that foundation. And the reason that like the Baxter Foundation that kind of really clicked with me, I kind of linked it to previous stuff that's happened in the movies. Um, in in Spider-Man Homecoming, they mentioned obviously Tony has sold the Avengers Tower. I think in Hawkeye they tease about somebody possibly a new owner at Avengers Tower. Um, and I'm actually speculating could the Avengers Tower turn into the Baxter Building for the Fantastic Four? That's just something I've been thinking. Honestly, there's various different things that the Avengers Towers could turn into. I know the other one was people thinking that Kingpin purchases it to make his headquarters because he also has like a big tower in New York City. But that's one thing that like just struck with me that hey that could be a good place for the Fantastic Four to have for the Baxter Building to be there and that's where the Fantastic Four can have their main base of operation. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it would be cool, but at the same time, this, like the mention of the Baxter Foundation, we already know the Fantastic Four exists, but all of that is in the other reality, the 838. So it doesn't necessarily reflect on what's happening. So again, like before we even go any further, so we have to kind of set like a understanding that we might go back and forth talking about realities because that's what this is, multiverse and stuff. So the 838 is the designation, because all of different realities within Marvel has a designated number. So the main one that we all remember from all of these movies and all of this stuff that we typically normally enjoy is the 616 kind of
Yeah,
maybe.
it is. No, it is, and that
We'll get back to that. I'm gonna get back to that in a second. But for the other one, that where this other reality where the Illuminati show up is designated as 838. So that's what we're talking about with the Baxter Foundation, because none of this has come up in the regular Marvel universe yet. So we don't know if it is, the Avengers Tower has been sold to the Baxter Foundation, or if it's, like you said, Kingpin or anything like that. So that what's happening in that reality doesn't necessarily reflect in the regular main one. But the other reality is 838. So I do have an issue with the 616 being the main universe with Marvel movies, because
yeah,
yes, they
because
said it in the movie, but at the same time, the Marvel movies already had a designation before this movie, and the 616 designation is specifically supposed to be for the comic book main
right,
universe.
right,
So it could be an error that they decided to use that, or they decided to use it to make it a little bit easier, because I believe the movie designation is something, it's like 1999 something, like it's like really long. So for them to actually say that in the movie, they would be, one, self-aware, two, it would be really long of a number to say, so it would probably be hard for people to remember. And in general, calling it 616 is just a lot easier because people are familiar with the comic book 616. So it could be like one of those factors. So I don't, for now, I'm fine with just calling it the 616 just because they said it in the movie, but I would love for there to be like a clarification from Kevin Feige or somebody else saying that was an error, or yes, we're going with this because it's this, makes it easy or something like that. Because, it shouldn't have the same designation, because it's saying like live action and comic book are the same universe, which is
right.
not.
I mean, that was surprising to me to hear them say that because, like you said, the comic books, the MCU is supposed to be its own universe. So I was kind of surprised that they had designated that as 616. Like I didn't hate it, but I was like, okay, that's weird. This could have been an opportunity for them to just give it a shorter, like just call it like 818 or something like that. I don't know, whatever they could have done. A number that's not far from that universe's, but just similarly close to that number, but it's
Right.
a different one. So yeah, that was a little surprising to me just because of that, that the fact that the 616 is the comic book universe, and obviously MCU's established itself as a separate universe from the comics, because while they take parts of what the comic books, like what's related to the comic books, but they obviously do a lot of liberties with the storylines and even the characters sometimes, like as far as what their powers might be. Like we've seen with Ms. Marvel, that's going to be coming up. Her power is a little bit different than what in the comics it's relegated to. So yeah, that was interesting. So the next Easter egg we want to talk about is the Living Tribunal Easter egg. Now the Living Tribunal is like in the comics, at least, he's like a powerful humanoid cosmic entity that's always existed in the universe as long as the universe has been around. So that's at least the comic part, and they show a little bit like a teaser of him there.
Do you remember seeing that?
I do. I remember seeing the eyes, but I didn't know what it was, and then I went back and read. I didn't realize what it was. Like I remember seeing his eyes and stuff, and I was like, who was that? And then when I went back and read just to see reviews and stuff like that, someone mentioned, "Oh, that's the Living Tribunal." I was like, "Oh, holy hell, that's awesome!"
Yeah, so this was one of the realities that they went through, like when they were going through different realities. This was one of the scenes. It was like super quick. And apparently this was also in one of the trailers. It wasn't, I don't believe it was in the trailer we just saw. But like again, like I watched the first trailer when we did our analysis, and I have not watched any trailers since then because I don't want spoilers. So if this was in one of the trailers, it was actually already before the movie came out. But as far as the Living Tribunal goes, this is just really cool. I believe there's like a rumor that they was going to try to have Living Tribunal in the first Doctor Strange movie when he was going through realities. So I guess maybe they just brought the idea back. In general, the Living Tribunal is a cosmic entity, but you have to. They don't have God, like Big G God, in the Marvel universe. They have the character called the One Above All. But that's basically more or less the same thing as Big G God. Like the one above all is the one above all. And the one right below the one above all is the Living Tribunal. And the Living Tribunal is basically a judge of the, I don't know, I want to say multiverse or omniverse. I'm not 100% sure. But the character does judge, like, to make sure everything's fair and balanced within the multiverse. So something like with Thanos using the snap or whatever, the Living Tribunal didn't get involved because anybody could have the Infinity Gauntlet and do that. It wasn't something that was unfair to, and that's what happened in the comic books. Like, he didn't stop it in the comic books because um it's not okay. So Cliff, like with multiverse and omniverse, I'm not. There's actually specific, like, a difference between omniverse and multiverse. That's why I wasn't sure which one it is. Multiverse is, there's like universe or reality, and then the collection of different realities is a multiverse, and an omniverse is a collection of different multiverses. So in the omniverse is like DC has a multiverse, and Marvel has a multiverse, and Image Comics, and then like real life and like animate, all that stuff. Those are all different things that have their own multiverse, and then the collection of all of that is the omniverse. So the one above all is above all of that, and then, like I said, the Living Tribunal is like right below that for the most part. So just like a quick flash there in the movie. I don't expect us to come back to this Living Tribunal anytime soon, but we might see it later on in Marvel movies, which I think we'll probably end up talking about a little bit later on today. But that was just really cool, just to see that, and it was just a fun Easter egg to have.
Yeah, yeah, it was cool, and it might not be just like a random Easter egg. Like it could be
Right.
very relevant going forward. I know there's a lot of rumors starting up about Secret Wars. I'm not sure um, how or when that would come out. I imagine like it wouldn't have to be that far in the future if they want to do it. Like it doesn't need to be like a 10-year buildup like with Thanos because they've already done so much, especially introducing all these universes and things like that, and all these different with what do you call it characters and stuff. So they could probably do it if they wanted to. But like, yeah, that's an interesting to think about it, and it's good to keep remembering that they did introduce this character, if you will, because he could be fairly important going forward
Mhm.
in whatever they want to do, especially because they obviously have introduced other powerful beings as well as like celestials um, and so forth. So that could definitely be a big part of what phase 4 and going into phase 5 is going to be really about. So the next thing we're going to talk about the Scarlet Witch and her sudden turn. I guess like you and I were wondering before the movie if she was going to be like the main villain. I had a little different thought on it. I figured she would be, but I figured it would be more so like the the Illuminati, who we'll get into later, but trying to hurt, like, destroy Wanda, but Strange wants to protect her or something like that. Like, I had a completely different storyline mapped out in my head because obviously I stayed away from everything Doctor Strange related after the first trailer that we watched and reviewed on the show on this show. But yeah, so you see a sudden turn of her becoming evil essentially in this movie.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention this earlier, but it's fine now. Also, this is one of the few Marvel movies. I mean, we've gotten quite a bunch of them, but it's one of the few ones where it is an absolute requirement that you watch WandaVision before
Yeah,
watching this movie. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Because if you go in this movie without having watched WandaVision, you will have questions as to why does she care about kids? Where did they come from? Why is she evil now? What is the dark
right,
hold? Um, she the last time I saw her, she almost defeat Thanos. She was good. So why is she the villain in this movie? It doesn't make
right.
sense, all of that stuff. So if you completely skipped out on WandaVision, you'd have a ton of questions. And this movie does no favors in giving you any kind of backstory as to what happened in WandaVision, just in case you skipped it, which is why. So one reason why the reviews, which I haven't read any reviews, but I can imagine one of the reasons why the reviews are a little poor is because not just because of the required viewing of WandaVision, but the fact that this movie didn't do any favors into again, you like you say, it just jumps directly into narrative with Defender Strange in America trying to get the Book of Ashanti and getting chased by the thing. You have no context as to what's happening, and then even after that, you have no idea why Wanda is picking whatever off the trees, and then all of a sudden everything turns red and black and stuff, and you just get no kind of filler as to, okay, is she bad, is she got bad intentions, what are these kids she's talking about, how does she um you know block Doctor Strange's magic, because even in that scene, which is really cool, I didn't think about it at the time, but he didn't use his magic. He walked into that. He did say everything looks real, but he did not like clear everything up like he did with Gargantos. He didn't like say, okay, enough with the illusions. He couldn't, because she had runes up, which was
Right.
from WandaVision. When you have your runes up, it blocks magic. Only the person that put the runes up can use the magic. So only she could use her magic in that moment, and he couldn't do anything. So that was a total thing that's relevant from that from that show, that's in the movie, that was not explained whatsoever.
Yeah, so I don't agree that they needed to put more explanation because the MCU was established that you need to watch the other stuff because it's all connected. So that's why WandaVision explains a lot of everything you need to know for this movie because they don't want to go elaborate more into every movie and explain back everything that's happened. Like you
That's
don't need
true,
to
but it's
like
not like they're explaining the entire MCU. It's something that
I'm like
happened earlier this year.
yeah, but it's part of that's a big part of it. So it's connected. So they don't need to rehash it again. So I disagree with that.
Yeah, but
But
it's
like,
not fair to a common moviegoer. Like, if I'm bringing my grandma to go see to see Doctor Strange with me, why would she need to absolutely have to watch WandaVision to understand what's going on?
why do you need to watch a first movie of a sequel?
It's not a movie. This is a TV show.
It's connected. They
It's not
are
a
direct
movie.
connection.
Like, that's
It
what I'm
doesn't
saying.
matter.
It's I'm a common moviegoer. I got a double feature. I'm gonna go watch Sonic 2 and this new Doctor Strange movie. I've already seen Sonic 1 because it's a movie, but like if I don't watch the
They're
show,
establishing. Yeah, that's fine.
right.
We can agree
That's
to
what I'm saying.
disagree. Like I said,
Yeah,
we can agree to disagree. Like I said, they've established the MCU as a whole as the Disney shows are part of the movies as well. They've
absolutely.
established that already. So that's why you need to watch the shows to know what's going on in the movies as well. But it kind of like explains why she's evil is because, like I said, in WandaVision, at the very end, they show her messing around with that Darkhold. And when they show uh Hagatha Harkness messing around with the dark hole too, you see her fingertips turning black. Agatha Harkness, and then in here you also see
Mhm.
Wanda's fingers are black because of that. And then also part of this, I like it again. It kicks to me in the comics is the House of M. When the House of M, she is bad, And again, the House of M again is this where she kind of suffers like a mental breakdown. It's like an 8 series comic book series where she suffers a mental breakdown and she tries to alter the fabric of reality to recreate her lost children. So it's kind of same thing what she's doing here. She's trying to get her children or get into other universes to get her children, not necessarily recreate them, but in the movie she's not recreating her children. She's trying to become go into one of the other Wandas in a different universe and be so she can be with her kids. So yeah, I think that kind of like I said, the Darkhold, knowing the history of how, that she's been messing around with the Darkhold, that's kind of what makes her evil. And then her continuous obsession of wanting to find her kids. She will do whatever it takes to get to her kids, and that's why she is essentially shown as the bad guy because she is going to do whatever it takes.
Right, yeah. So her whole motivation was going after the kids. But again, they did very much clearly point out multiple times in the movie that she was corrupted by the Darkhold. So it's not like she was being selfish and just wanted her kids back and went by enemies necessary. She went by enemies necessary because her mind was altered and her heart and her desires were all completely altered. It seems almost like honorable or whatever that she wants to get her kids back, but at the same time, the way she went about it was motivated by the Darkhold, and her heart was corrupted by the Darkhold. So it's still going to be, again, if you hadn't watched WandaVision, you may not have known that, or may not have seen the emphasis on that. You could have just walked away from this thinking that she wanted some kids back that she made up that weren't real, and that she's literally went on a killing spree, killing people at Kamertage and killing, the Illuminati, which we'll talk about very soon, uh, and so on. And you can walk away like, man, she really is evil. Like, she was a real villain. No, she was a villain in the movie, but she's really not an evil person. She was just corrupted by the Darkhold, and that's what it does to people, and it's what it does to Wanda and even to Strange, which we'll also talk about a little bit. But she was corrupted, and that's the whole reason why she was like just came off this way and went about things that she did and hurt people, all for her, all for the sake of her kids, which sounds, again, but yeah, exactly. Scarlet Witch is evil. Wanda is not. Thank you, Cliff. Exactly. Like, that's exactly what it was. And even at the end of the movie, she did a heroic act. But whether or not she gets back on the lunchbox after this movie, probably not. And we'll see what happens with her in the future. But right now, like, it's hard to sell people on Wanda not being evil with them not having watched WandaVision and not hearing clearly that the Darkhold corrupted her.
Yeah, and I guess another thing I'll also say, I guess it kind of works because in the comics they do the same thing. Like, if there'll be random comic books that you'll read that will have a part of a different comic book storyline, and you will be like, wait, what happened? And they'll have a small note, hey, this was mentioned in this comic, you should have read it, and that's it. So like I said, I think that's what they're going with here too. Like, you have to watch every parts of to understand certain aspects of a storyline or a movie. So I think that's fair to me. And obviously we can all have our own thoughts and disagreements on it. That's completely okay as well. But yeah, so moving on, the Illuminati, they finally show who the Illuminati is. We all had our different thoughts on who might be in it. We were all expecting Tom Cruise to be in here as the superior Iron Man. That obviously did not happen. We kept wondering who certain characters are. Like, remember when we had that conversation on who the one person that was in the air that was glowing and looked like she had some kind of person or thing that had radiation around her, and she was fighting Wanda, or it was finding Wanda, I should say. And we were wondering, oh, that's maybe Maria Rambeau? That what if that's, or maybe that's Superior Iron Man? Who maybe it's someone else that we're thinking of. But yeah, so like I said, they finally show who is in the Illuminati, and then it goes essentially from, if you're looking at the video, from left to right, it's Baron Carl Mordo, played by, I always don't know how to pronounce his name, and I feel bad about that. Is it Chiwetel?
Can't help you
Chiwetel?
today.
Yeah, I feel bad all the time, with not knowing how to pronounce his name, because it's been hard for me to find the exact pronunciation online either.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone actually say his name, so I can't.
Yeah. Chiwetel Ejiofor. I don't know. I apologize if I'm butchering that really badly. So he's been in the first Doctor Strange as Baron Mordo. Now this is a variant of his version from Doctor Strange, obviously. So basically that he's in this other universe 838, he's still himself, Baron Mordo. And then you see Charles Xavier, played by Patrick Stewart. Now it's not confirmed that this is the same it's the same Patrick, or the Charles Xavier from the X-Men universes. They just show a variant of Charles Xavier in Illuminati, because he is in the comics as part of the Illuminati. Then you see Captain Carter, played by Haley Atwell, or Haley Atwell. She was obviously introduced in MCU before, as a alternate reality character, because if Steve Rogers didn't become Captain America because something happened to him before he took the serum, so then Agent Carter decides to take the serum to ongo the whatever they're trying to do, and then she becomes Captain Carter. Captain Marvel here is, so obviously we know Captain Marvel as Carol Danvers, who was played by Brie Larson in the first movie. Now in this universe, they show Lashana Lynch playing her, who is Maria Rambeau, and she's basically shown as Captain Marvel in this universe. And then Black Bolt is played by Anson Mount. Now, I don't know if you, Carl, if you watched the Inhumans on ABC. I did not. When I saw him in, you did? Okay. So I had no idea, and as soon as the movie ended, I googled to see, is this the same guy that played in Humans? And it is. It's they got the same actor to play Black Bolt again in Universe 838. Now again, we don't know if that means they're saying Inhumans is canon to MCU. It just could be another variant, but that's him. And the 838 he is still Black Bolt. And then finally, the big surprise is Reed Richards, as aka Mr. Fantastic, played by John Krasinski. And I actually have interesting thoughts on that. Like, obviously, it could be different, but I'm wondering if this is kind of establishing him as Mr. Fantastic, even in Earth 616, because you generally tend to see all the characters, like, they're themselves. Like any universe you go to, you're still like, Doctor Strange is still Doctor Strange in 838. You see Baron Mordo is still Baron Mordo in 838. Black Bolt in this universe, however, Charles Xavier, obviously he didn't have any other roles in MCU. So I'm wondering if that establishes him. Obviously, the Lashana Lynch thing kind of could throw you off, saying, well, Captain Marvel in 616 is Brie Larson, but we don't really know the background story, how she ends up becoming Captain Marvel instead of Brie Larson. Maybe there's a scenario similar to what happens to Haley Atwell or Agent Carter instead of Steve Rogers. So I'm kind of wondering if that could mean that they're going to go ahead and have John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic.
It's certainly possible, but not necessarily guaranteed, in my opinion, for any of these, in particular, Black Bolt and Mr. Fantastic. Because again, this is the another reality. It's another alternate universe. Captain Carter is the analog for Captain America, so we can assume, though not necessarily confirm, that there is no Captain America in Universe 838, but they have Captain Carter because they went through. Again, we're like also assuming she would have the same origin as she has in What If, because What If is a whole nother reality from what was in this movie, because that's animated, and we already saw in this movie that animated universes exist and real life ones do. So the animated Captain Carter is its own universe, and then the slash live action is 838 Captain Carter, but it's still relatively safe to assume they have a similar backstory. With Captain Marvel, we can assume it's a similar backstory, but it's still an assumption to what happened with Carol Danvers, but it happened to Maria Rambeau instead of Carol because it was a test flight. So you can make the assumption, but without concrete, direct evidence and direct, them saying this is what happened to me, we won't know. And same thing with Black Bolt. Black Bolt is, we're confirming Inhumans and confirming Black Bolt in that reality, but not ours, not 616 just yet. And same thing with the
Yeah, because he doesn't
Mr.
exist in
Fantastic.
616 that we know of.
That we know of. Like he could, because I mean, there's been stories of them hiding on Earth. They're hiding on
Right.
the blue side of the moon. They could just not exist yet. A whole bunch of stuff. And same thing with Reed, like especially with Reed in that regard, because the Fantastic Four are a group of superpowered individuals that do heroic things, but they are really scientists and researchers.
Right.
They are not heroes. And Reed does do a lot of heroic things and solve a lot of problems, but he would rather be in a laboratory or in space or doing other stuff and not getting involved in a fight unless it was like something more direct with him or someone asked him. But him like staying out of a fight between let's say Spider-Man's outside fighting, whatever, Mysterio, whatever, he's not going to just jump out there and start fighting to help Spider-Man. He's doing an experiment. Like he doesn't care. He's going to the negative zone or something like that. So he could be in our 616 in a regular universe. Maybe he doesn't have powers yet. Maybe he does. Until we find out, in a few years when they make this movie, they'll justify it at that point. But yeah, that's in general how I feel about whether their status right now. But it's still really cool to see. I don't know, how do you feel about, because again, all of them died in this movie except for Mordo. How did you feel about all of that?
Yeah, I was like, man, they killed him like so quick. Like it was not much of a. I mean, you saw Agent Carter and Maria Rambeau, Captain Marvel had put up a decent fight against Wanda. It was kind of sad to see Mr. Fantastic die like this so quickly. Like she unraveled him and then snapped his head or popped his head. That was kind of brutal to see. And then Black Bolt's death, man, he essentially reversed his power on himself. Essentially,
Which I think it's all BS, but I'll let it go for the movie because
yeah.
they had to kill him
I
somehow.
didn't. What's that?
They had to kill him off somehow.
I guess, and it was
a
kind of
bit shocking, like first kill too, because you weren't expecting them to do what they did. So it was just like the beginning, the first domino that fell, and it was like a really huge domino and a shocking one, and then everything else just kind of crashed, right?
Yeah, I guess I'll say this is probably the only part I didn't really like. I didn't really like that they killed off some of these characters just like that. It's like, what the hell? Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was the point of that? That's more like, I mean, but I guess they had to show how off the reserve Scarlet Witch is. I guess maybe that's why they did what they did.
All those got the footage.
Yeah, it's
yeah. Cover your eyes.
It's pretty gruesome. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. Look at the way he dies. It's
But
And
which
his
I'm glad he has this. Someone pointed out that the way that he died, this is very reminiscent, like Scarlet Witch using her powers is very reminiscent to how Thanos used the Infinity Gauntlet. Like he had turned, what was it, Mantis into ribbons like that uh,
right.
in Infinity War. So it was like, yeah, this is kind of the same thing. Um,
Yeah,
but
that's
yeah,
interesting.
I'm right there with you. With I really wish, like I understand why they had to die, because the problem at that point would have been people wanting to know what happens to them after. If all of them lived and they just like ran away, people would be curious as to, okay, so what happened to Captain Carter after this? What happens to Reed Richards after, especially Reed Richards and Black Bolt? Are they going to come to the MCU now, or what's going on with Professor Xavier? People will have way
Yeah,
too many questions, and to leave it open ended like that, so killing them off is like, okay, here's your treat, and we're going to take it away because you're going to ask too many questions and you guys are going to want more, and we're not doing that. We're just giving you something for fun. So I totally get that. At the same time, I still wish that at least like one or two of them lived. uh in particular, it hurt my heart seeing Professor Xavier like that because I'm a huge Iron
yeah. Like
fan.
this.
And then it's just like, it's Patrick Stewart. He's getting a little long in the teeth there. Like I don't want to see him like that either. So it hurt personally. I would have liked for at least one or two of them to get out unscathed, or just like leave and escape, and then the other ones die, like killing off Mr. Fantastic, Black Bolt, totally fine, and then killing off maybe Captain Marvel, and then like Captain Carter and Xavier leave or something like that. Like I would have been totally okay with that. But all of them dying is just like, oh, that really hurt. And then they died such brutal, gruesome deaths, which very Sam Raimi. Like I get that's like a whole
Right.
nother Sam Raimi thing. Um, so that was a treat to see. But one of the things that we were talking about pre-show, and you were mentioning just now, is that a lot of fans had this expectation to see an Iron Man character between the Ultron bots being there, as well as Iron Man being a big part. He's actually the reason why the Illuminati formed in the comics in the first place. It was
Hmm.
Iron Man, and people were expecting it to be Tom Cruise to be Iron Man, and the reasoning behind that would be uh, before Robert Downey Jr. was cast as Iron Man, there was plans on making Tom Cruise be Iron Man for the first Iron Man movie, which thing either he turned it down or things just didn't fall in the right place or whatever, and ended up settling with Robert Downey Jr., which is still a fantastic idea because he's one of the best actors and is Tony Stark, right? But having like Patrick Stewart and having John Krasinski, which was a huge fan casting and has been a fan casting for many years
Hmm.
for Reed Richards, and they were able to pay that off and have that here. But I have from Rolling Stone, they interviewed the writer for Doctor Strange 2 about several things. And one of the things that they talked about was this Tom Cruise rumor that was going about. So I'm going to real quick read this section of this Rolling Stone interview. So they ask, fans were totally right about Patrick Stewart appearing as an alternate Professor X, but were totally wrong about Tom Cruise, who had once been slated to star as Iron Man years before Robert Downey Jr., showing up as an alternate Iron Man. Did fans totally make up the Tom Cruise thing? And he said, yeah, that was totally made up. I mean, there's no cut footage of Tom Cruise, but I love Tom Cruise. And I said to Kevin Feige at one point, I was like, could we get Tom Cruise's Iron Man? I remember reading about that in Ain't It Cool News back in the day that Tom Cruise was going to be Iron Man. So it was totally made up by fans, but you try to make it up, is what you're saying. Yes, exactly. As it was being talked online, I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. So what did Kevin Feige say when you asked him? Well, I mean, he was shooting Mission Impossible 7 and 8. So to be totally clear, did anyone reach out to Tom Cruise? I don't believe so. I just think it was never an option because of availability. So the writer absolutely wanted Tom Cruise to be Iron Man in this movie, but one, he doesn't think anyone actually asked Tom. He is busy with not only Mission Impossible 7 and 8, but Top Gun is coming out later this month, I believe, as well. Um, he's a busy man, and whether or not it actually happened, who knows? And I know you've been saying Tom Cruise might be confirmed in the MCU at some point for some role, but clearly right now it's not Iron Man.
Right, and I don't, and it was like I said, there was something in an article, and they're saying that it was confirmed that he might be, and he's supposed to be eventually in a prominent role or an ongoing role at least. But we'll see what happens. Maybe there'll be something that he'll end up doing that will make sense and will fit him into the MCU. Um,
And I do
the
have an
next
idea on that, which I want to circle back to just in case I forget. Remind me, but I want to bring it up later
for
for Iron Man and
Iron Man.
the Illuminati.
Okay. Um, so and then they also show like the Illuminati. Speaking of the Illuminati, they also show them defeating Thanos in Universe 838. Which was quite different than how it happened in 616. Although if you want to pop up that picture really quick, they show with Thanos lying. Yep, there's like a big thing that has stabbed him through his uh, heart, if you will. I
And I'm
mean,
noticing
they
he
didn't
has a
go for,
gauntlet on, but he doesn't have all of the
right,
gems.
right, and they didn't go for the head. So, uh, um, yeah, so they have him dying there, and then obviously there's this. They're talking about how Doctor Strange is basically the problem for the multiverse and whatever, and they show Black Bolt killing 838's Doctor Strange in this scene that we have up here. But yeah, that was it was interesting to see, just like I said, because it's much different than it's cool kind of to see because it's much different, like I said, than what happened in 616.
Yeah, in particular, that not only did the Illuminati defeat Thanos, but they did it on Titan. This is not on Earth. This is on Thanos' home
Right,
world. So they did it
right,
before no one was snapped. The snap didn't happen in this universe. They defeated him before the snap, before he got to Earth. He doesn't have all of the stones. And the key point of that is they not only did they defeat him, but they defeated him because Doctor Strange used the Darkhold to get the power to defeat Thanos, but it corrupted him, and that's why they had to kill Doctor Strange afterward. So I do feel like it's interesting that Doctor Strange didn't try to take out the Illuminati afterward, but maybe he was humble enough to know that, hey, this power is corrupting me, and I don't want it to get any further than this. And he said, do what you must, sort of thing. Um, but still, like even after seeing that scene, and then you see Wanda fighting them, you do see like when like the reason why also the Illuminati died to Wanda is that like in that scene when Doctor Strange go up to them and say, hey, she's got the Darkhold, she's looking for this America who's downstairs, like we need to stop her. And the Illuminati are like, yeah, dude, we beat Thanos, like we got this who's Scarlet Witch? We can care less, man. We beat Thanos. We can handle some Scarlet Witch. And it was their arrogance was their downfall, because clearly they didn't know nearly enough about Scarlet Witch, or even that she was powered up more than many other Scarlet Witches. Maybe they had one in their reality and that never had the Darkhold, but they were not prepared. They thought like, hey guys, we got Black Bolt. Like when they approached him, like, who's the front line? The first one to die. Black Bolt. Mr. Fantastic's like, yeah, we got Black Bolt. So whatever you're gonna try, all he has to do is whisper and you're vaporized. And that's when everything popped off. And she killed Black Bolt and killed Mr. Fantastic just like that. So it was their arrogance that was really their downfall. And it was still, despite that, you could see how powerful they were in defeating Thanos. Black Bolt's killing, Miss Doctor Strange within, one word, the fight with Captain Marvel and Captain Carter against Scarlet Witch, which was still really good despite the power of Scarlet Witch, and even I don't think Professor X really had a chance there, but at the same time, he did his own thing. It would have been nice for that scene to have been a little bit longer, though. But yeah,
Yeah. So the inclusion, they talk. So the next thing we'll talk about the inclusions. They talked about, and they show like what happens when two universes kind of collide or whatever. And in the comics, what they do, the event known as inclusion, is the result of a contraction or reduction in a multiverse's timeline. I think they do a little bit different in here, but it kind of they kind of essentially show what an inclusion. They talk about the inclusion in the movie.
yeah. The incursions are mentioned several times in this movie, and it's something that we may have to circle back on. So I thought we should talk about it quickly because it's going to be a concept that's going to go over people's head for a while until the movies do a little bit more explaining. But um, incursions are essentially there's an event which who knows what will happen in the MCU that causes them, but they've already happened. The one world where the Doctor Strange, the really evil one, the dark one, there was already an incursion happening there. But incursions are essentially, let's just say that Earth on every reality is a very central focused, like a very important place on every reality is like the key spot. um an event took place in the comic books, which I won't spoil it, but it would just say that something caused these realities to each reality next to each other to converge, or meet, I should say, to a point where you can actually visibly see the earth of another reality. And within 8 hours, a decision has to be made. You have to either, one, destroy the other earth, that earth, destroy your earth, to keep them from destroying each other. Like if the two earths are going to collide, so therefore if one is not there anymore, they won't collide. If either Earth never does anything, then uh, although okay, actually take this picture down real quick because it'll be easier to use my hands. So let's just say this: if this is your Earth and then this is somebody else, and you got 8 hours to do something about it because they're going to eventually collide and explode, and everyone dies. If you destroy this earth, then you live. If they destroy you, then they live. But if you decide to do nothing, then you both die. And that's basically, and it's not just the earth, but all of the reality, because it's going to be a huge explosion that destroys both realities. So that's kind of what they're alluding to in these movies as a possible future. And the incursions are what lead to Secret Wars, which is a big story, a big storyline that is what we might be having in the future MCU movies, as we were talking about earlier today. So that could be like the big, like Infinity War, Endgame, Thanos stuff. The next thing could be Secret Wars. The Secret Wars is a bunch of different realities that are all converged into one place because so many incursions happen. There's only a handful of realities left, and they were all put in one place. So you had, let's just use MCU or in the movies, for example, you had like the MCU as one island per se on a world, and then you said like the X-Men universe with Deadpool and all of those are on one island, and then Spider-Man is all on one island, and then like the animated verse over here, and then like maybe the Fantastic Four from the early like Jessica Alba days are over here, and so on. Blade maybe is over here, and put them all together on one earth, and then they all fight each other. So one of the ideas that I had, like this is what I was talking about earlier, is to do, if they're going to do Secret Wars, which is a possibility, they can do it where all of these different um different characters are all together, kind of like the first Secret Wars, where it's just like good versus evil. They can do it like that. The original Secret Wars event happened in like 1984 or something like that, and it was basically good versus evil at that point.
Right.
All the good people over here, all the bad people over there, fighting. Whoever wins is the winner of Secret Wars. The second, more recent Secret Wars is what I had just previously described.
Right.
Um, One cool thing I would think would be great, which I don't think they're pointing to, but maybe they could be, is after the Illuminati have been killed here by Scarlet Witch. Reed already alluded to having a wife and kids and stuff like that.
Mhm.
What if all of these different realities are converging and stuff, and we end up coming back to this 838 universe in this Secret Wars, particularly, and we see everyone else that's not in this movie be in that Secret Wars, in particular Sue, Johnny, Ben, the rest of the X-Men that didn't die in this, because at the end of the day, they died, but someone knows that, like, especially Mordo, he's still alive, so he can go back and tell the X-Men, hey, this is how Professor Xavier died. Some Doctor Strange and Wanda from this reality killed them. So now they have a target on their backs. And now our reality, with whoever is in our reality at that point, will have to defend our reality from the other reality of, the 838 and their X-Men and the Inhumans and the rest of the rest of that thing. That's what I'm thinking about. And then at that point you can cast Tom Cruise to be Iron Man, because Iron Man definitely exists or has existed. Maybe he's still alive, but you can still say since he's not in this movie, you can say, okay, Iron Man exists in that reality, is Tom Cruise, and he can be on that other side.
Right. That would be interesting for sure. I know Cliff has a couple of questions like the Illuminati. Why they call Illuminati? Yeah, they're just like a secret society of superheroes. Like people don't know that that group exists. That's why they're called the Illuminati. Uh, yeah, there's not any other sinister reason behind it. Yeah, they're just like like I said, created, and they work behind the scenes without anyone, like even like the government knowing, like Shield knowing, or anything like that knowing about what they're doing, basically. Um, yeah. So next, America Chavez, so played by Sochi Gomez. She was a really good character in here. She did a really great job as far as her acting. They showed like one thing I'm interested in is like they were the whole movie like she didn't really know how to use her powers. Essentially, she was like she only way she used them was when she got scared and was by accident. And then like, later you find out, well, technically it wasn't really by accident because everything that happened because you wanted it to happen. You just didn't realize it. You didn't know how you were controlling the powers. So it'll be like I said, it'll be interesting to see how in depth they go with her powers for me because in the comics, obviously her so the kind of a breakdown on her abilities. She has superhuman strength, speed, longevity, durability. She can fly. She's invulnerable. She has like the invulnerability aspect. She can do obviously we saw the star portal she does, where she can go through different universes. She also can star blast, like hit people with kind of it's a blast or whatever you want to call it. She can time travel, and then she can also interdimensional travel, which is like time travel and move out of like physical body, like take her physical form and go into it to the past or whatever, and like in a spiritual sense, um, into like into like into a spiritual form, like I said. So it's going to be interesting if they go in depth with her powers. Obviously, in the end they show her doing at Kamatage. She's learning how to become um, a wizard, if you will, a sorcerer, if you will. So yeah, it'll be interesting, like I said. But yeah, I really liked her character, her Sochi Gomez, the way she played, the way everything involved. Like I thought she did a really great job.
So I'm a huge America Chavez fan in the comics. I didn't care for her too much in this movie. She's not at all the same. The one she's 14 in this movie, so that's like she's actually supposed to be 14. And no fault to Sochi Gomez whatsoever, because they didn't really give her much to work with, in my opinion. But for the most part, I think she was just a living, breathing, walking, talking MacGuffin for the whole movie, because the whole thing was Scarlet Witch was after her to absorb her powers, and most of the movie, all she did was run and talk. Um, and I didn't really care for that. And she wasn't even talking in her like normal comic book personality, because she's like very sassy. She's very like yeah, she has an attitude. Like she has like to get to like close other question why she called America. She's Latina, so there's it's like a common name within Latinas. Uh, to be called America. Not I'm gonna say common, but it's some Latinas are called America. So she's it's just that, and then they just kind of go with it with her image with like the flag on her jacket and stuff. That just kind of lean into that a little bit more, but it's not like super in depth past that. They do call her Miss America sometimes, but in general, I didn't care for her too much in the movie. I just she was just okay, and she didn't really come into her own towards the end. And I get it's like, and I'm totally fine with it in general, because it is an introduction to her. This movie isn't about her, and it's not about a team with her in it or anything like that. But she's still like she could have been a statue or a necklace or some sort of power up item, and it wouldn't have made a difference, because all she did and up until the end was when she actually punched Scarlet Witch and then sent her to back to the 838 reality to see her kids. That's the only thing, and that could have been, like I said, she could have been just a inorganic object, and it wouldn't have made all that difference to me. So again, she's just not the character that I personally know and like, and hopefully that she does get some development in the future with things are leaning still towards a young Avengers sort of
Right.
thing. She does eventually. She does in the comics come from the young Avengers. So there's just more of that going on within the MCU. But again, she is 14. I don't know what they are trying to do with Young Avengers. Billy and Tommy, real quick though. So they are much younger than 14 in the MCU currently, and they are a part of the Young Avengers. But obviously, I don't think anyone expected the two boys, these two actors, to be the ones that are eventually going to be Billy and Tommy, like just or in the Wiccan and Speed, I should say, in the Young Avengers, unless they are like specifically waiting for them to grow up, and then like say 5 or 6 years from now, and when they are teenagers, and then they figure out ages and stuff, it could be that case. But for right now, like if they do a Young Avengers movie next year, I don't think they would use the same actors for Billy and Tommy, which I don't think they are. But um, as far as Sochi, she's already I don't know what it was, 18 or 19 or something
She's
like that.
16. She's
Okay.
16.
But either way, like she like by the time they get to Young Avengers, she will be 18 at that point, and maybe 19 or 20, because
Right.
they haven't announced anything, so I wouldn't expect it to come out anytime next year or anything like that.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I'm thinking like I'm more and more thinking like Kate Bishop won't be part of the Young Avengers, because like I don't know, because like Haley Sittenfeld, by the time they do Young Avengers, I feel like she'll be like she's already 22. So by the time they do Younger Avengers, she'll be like 25, maybe 26.
I
So I don't
mean,
know. Like
Tobey Maguire is playing a high schooler in Spider-Man, so
sure, but I'm just saying I don't know if she'll like look compared to the other younger kids that are in the younger. I don't know. It'll be interesting. We'll see what happens. But that's something to consider. I wonder if she'll just flat out be the replacement for Hawkeye in the main Avengers. Um, that could be something that they maybe do too, because technically she is supposed to be a replacement for Hawkeye, as the new Hawkeye, I should say. So that'll be something to keep track of as well. And then the final post credit scene, uh, they just show Charlize Theron. They don't really give any like introduction to her, and she just comes in and says, there is that you've caused an incursion, Doctor Strange. Like you have to come and help me, unless you're scared or whatever. And then they show them. She creates that portal, and then they go in to do whatever they're going to do to fight whatever they're going to fight or stop the incursion happening in this other universe that supposedly that's going to be happening. But so in the comics, to kind of give understanding who she probably is Clea Strange. That's her name currently, and that's obviously again that's played by Charlize Theron. She is Clea is a love interest of Doctor Strange, and early on, and she's kind of portrayed almost at times as a damsel in distress. Now, I'll be very shocked if Charlize Theron signed up to play this character and be shown as a damsel in distress, because when you look at her, um, every role that she's done, she plays pretty strong characters. Like she's not going to sign up to be a damsel in distress. So I'm imagining, and I think they should obviously do a lot different as far as the original aspects of what she was and change up her character in that regards. But and to further give a little background on Clea, so her mother is the sister of Dormammu. Dormammu, you guys will remember from the first Doctor Strange. He's like the main evil, the Dark Dimension uh, uh, sorcerer, if you will, that is trying to take over the Earth, or come and take over the Earth and whatnot. Um, so basically, she's her niece or his niece. She is his niece. Um, so they kind of show that, and she doesn't know that growing up. She meets Doctor Strange when Doctor Strange goes to the Dark Dimension to fight Dormammu, because Dormammu again is always trying to come over to the Earth and take her. And she basically gets intrigued by him, and then eventually she gets kind of impressed with him, his powers and stuff, and then they kind of have a connection from then on. And most recently, I think she's taken up as the Sorcerer Supreme, because they have, in the comics at least, Doctor Strange dies, and she becomes a new Sorcerer Supreme, and she takes on his last name, and so it's Clea Strange, and an honor to him. Um, and kind of to give her you an idea of her abilities as well. So she has like superhuman strength and resistance to injury, mastery of magic, energy bolts she can do, teleportation, telekinesis, mind control, illusion illusion generation. Like she can like generate like fake things that make you think you're seeing something. Flames of Regency is greatly allowing her powers to reach her highest peak. Like there's things that can this flames of Regency. I didn't really look into depth. I don't know what that is, to be honest. Um, but yeah, that kind of gives you an idea of her powers. And that thing that she didn't to get into 616 is probably a teleportation portal she opened up. That's one of her powers, to be able to do that. But yeah, I mean, obviously they don't give a lot away in that scene, but we just kind of show maybe a cliffhanger to Doctor Strange 3, or maybe something else that's going to be happening. Who knows? Maybe Charlize Theron's character comes back before that, even in one of in a Disney Plus show or something like that. What were your thoughts? Just like obviously, like not a lot to go by as far as that scene itself. Just that they're going to another universe to probably battle or stop that thing from happening, and we don't really know what may really be what they do and what her character may end up being.
First, I do want to like go back, backpedal just a bit, because we did kind of gloss over, just like Kalia did, when they interact in that scene, the fact that
Oh
Doctor Strange
yeah,
has a third eye,
right.
because we didn't talk about that. So that was the end of the movie,
That's
is
true.
him walking out of the sanctum, and then all of a sudden the eye pops out in a lot of pain, and so on. And
Because of
then
the dark
credits
hole.
roll, and then Clea comes out. So when she comes out of the portal, he already has a third eye, just like here in this picture.
Hmm.
She doesn't look at him weird. She doesn't say, "What's that?" It doesn't throw her off whatsoever. She's just like, "Hey, there's been an incursion. Let's go." And he's like, "Okay, I'm game." And then they go through. So just to quickly clarify, like, yes, he has the third eye because of the dark hold, but that does not mean that he's evil now, or that he has been corrupted necessarily. But a lot of times, this third eye uh, really implies a power up. This just shows that, like, just a way of visually showing that this person's more powerful now. Uh, so that's just kind of implied. I don't like the way it looks, because I've seen people
Yeah.
say, and I agree, that it just looks like it's photoshopped on there, like an
Right.
amateur took an eye and put a Photoshop on there. So it's not the best looking. So I hope they clean that up for the future. But I do hope that there is some meaning to it, and some corruption that did happen within Doctor Strange, because they can't just have him use the dark hold without any repercussions. As also mentioned, when he was dream walking into a dead body, that he can't do that without any kind of repercussions. So there's definitely something that happens to Strange, but they're leaving that door open because they probably don't know what they want to do to him yet. Because one, Doctor Strange 3 hasn't been written. We don't know when it's going to come out. Two, leaving the door open for this scene in particular, because again, at the end of Doctor Strange, he gets the eye, but how much time went by between that scene of him first getting the eye and this scene where he's meeting Clea? We don't know if it's the next day, the next week, the next year, or anything like that. How long has he had this eye? He seems kind of comfortable with it. He's not in pain anymore. So how much time has taken place in between the two scenes? Because we might have, say, there was no movies in between those two scenes, or there was like 5 movies in between those two scenes, and that could be really important. But they leave that door open for sure, because they don't know what they want to do just yet with this information. But this totally is Clea. She is from the Dark Dimension, as I believe you said, but she is the
Yep.
niece of Dormammu. She is I believe she's like the sorceress, or like the ruler of the dark dimension at
Yeah, she
some point.
becomes she becomes that when like Dormammu, like I think I don't know if he dies or something happens to him, and she goes back to become the ruler of the dark dimension.
Right. So like her power comes from there, just like Dormammu's does. And they do have a romance in the comics. It is, um, as you would say, she was a damsel in distress in her early days in the comics. I believe it's like the first 12 appearances of Clea, she wasn't even named. Like, she was just
Right.
woman, like the sorceress woman. So eventually she does become a very important character to Doctor Strange. So I don't expect them, like, she's not going to show up looking badass with her makeup and her hair all fierce and stuff, and then say, "Hey, let's go," and then come and save me. So I don't think that's going to happen at all. They were going to just gloss over that part of Clea's history and go straight into she's a very powerful and influential character, and important to Strange sort of thing. I do kind of like, yes, I do think they're going to eventually move on to her being the love interest for Strange, but I do kind of like how Strange ended this movie with Christine in the alternate universe, where it felt like if he had the ability to go back to 838, that he could have something going on with that Christine, because they kind of like reached a point where they understand each other, and they definitely do care about each other, even though her Doctor Strange is dead and his Clea, or his Christine, is now married. I think that they could. It kind of leaves the door open to that in a way, but she is in another reality, so it'd be something they'd have to explain how they can get back to that. But in general, like when Christine was introduced in the first movie, I was still like, who the heck is she? I have no idea, and I don't care. Bring Clea, because Clea is his girl. So now we're here. So I don't think we'll see Christine again, but it'd be cool to see her again because she's much better in this movie. But I still would rather have Clea, especially with Charlize playing her. So
No, yeah, 100%. Like, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure she'll be around. Like, she could still just be a supporting character as a friend or whatever, but maybe not a big role. Like, kind of like Pepper Potts in a sense.
it's
Like
possible. I honestly, I don't think
now
we'll.
and then.
I personally don't think we'll see 616 Christine anymore. Because she's
Maybe.
just because it's just like Jane Foster. Like the original Jane Foster from the first Thor movies is not a great character, and that's why Natalie Portman did not want to come back.
No,
But,
exactly.
but now she's the mighty Thor, and that's way better, and it would be much more enticing to bring that Jane back, and much better for Rachel McAdams to come back to be the other Christine. That is way better of a character.
No, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting what they do. Like I said, like you said, we don't know how much time has passed since he got that eye. We don't know where exactly. Like we know where she's taking him, but we don't know if that's going to be explained in this third movie or if it's going to be explained in a different like series, or whatever have you that's going to happen. We don't know yet, and we don't know if maybe she's we don't know if she's taking it necessarily. Maybe she's tricking him. Maybe it's because like, oh, you caused this, now you're in trouble, so I'm tricking you to come with me, and then we're gonna try to hurt you or something or kill you because you did this to us, or I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out what happens with that. But I think we're close to being wrapped up here. I think there's just one last thing that you wanted to mention in connecting to the Sam Raimi movie. There was a lot throughout this movie in general had Sam Raimi touch to it, and the Easter egg in particular to one of his popular movies that he's done in the past.
Yeah, so the very last post credit scene with the Bruce Campbell character, they were on that reality with the pizza balls and stuff, and Doctor Strange, because they weren't going to pay. Doctor Strange put the spell on that character, and he kept hitting himself, and they said it was going to last like a couple weeks, but eventually will wear off. So the post credit scene was going back to that character hitting himself, and then it stopped, and then he's like looking at the camera. Oh, it's finally over. So it was a joke about one, the spell ending. It's finally over. Two, the movie is finally over, being meta. So like let you know that there aren't any other post credit scenes after that. There's no more movie. The movie is over. Go home. But also was the Easter egg to Evil Dead with Bruce Campbell as Ash Williams, and that's when he had the possessed hand. His hand was possessed in that movie, and he was fighting him in the movie, just like in Doctor Strange. So that's where Ash Williams, he's fighting his possessed hands. He had to cut it off with the chainsaw, and then that's where he got his very well-known chainsaw arm from, is because he had to cut off his hand in this scene. So it was a whole lot of stuff in that post-credit scene, which I don't understand why people didn't like it. A lot of people, even like in the theater, they were like, "Aw," like they were really pissed because they really wanted some extra Marvel nuggets of future stuff instead of having fun. And this was I thought it was cool. I thought it was super fun. I thought it was a great Easter egg, and I thought, not everything needs to be leading towards the next Marvel movie or the Avengers or some sort of secret plans or new character reveals or anything like that. It's just these are comic book movies. They're supposed to be fun, And this one was a really fun one, and I really enjoyed the scenes, or enjoyed that scene in general as a great Easter egg.
Yeah, and Marvel's been doing that a lot though. They have one scene that's important to a future movie that like they do a teaser, and then another scene they tend to do as a joke and not really have anything to do with a movie going forward or whatever. Like remember um in Homecoming where in the end this Cap was like he kind of jokes, when you get to the end and you're disappointed. It's nothing. It's just like a joke. That's
Hmm.
all it is.
Even
They've
like
done it.
it's been going on
Avengers
for so long. Like I say, Avengers was gonna say
with
them eating
the
shawarma.
shawarma. Yeah, they're just sitting there eating shawarma. They're not doing it. It has nothing to do with a future movie. They've been doing that, and like I said, it is relevant. It's a nice little touch of Easter egg from a Sam Raimi previous movie and a character that's been in a lot of his movies, or an actor I should say has been in a lot of his movies. So it's cool. I liked it. I thought it was fun. It's funny. It's nice to see. It's nice to see what they'll do, what surprise thing they may have. It may be completely random or whatever have you, but it was pretty cool to see. Um, but yeah, I think we're pretty much done here talking about Doctor Strange. Any final thoughts before we get going?
Well, other than I mean, we don't know when the Doctor Strange. I do hear that that now I can't. Benedict Cumberbatch. I heard that he wants to take a break from making movies, which is he just made Spider-Man and this one. So I don't expect to see a Doctor Strange movie anytime soon. It's not on the schedule anyway. So it's not like we were going to see one next year, whatever it is. But um, yeah, it might be a little while before we see him pop up as like maybe in anything like a cameo. Either way, the next thing is technically Miss Marvel next month, and then what's the name? Thor in July or August? I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, I'm excited for all of those, and I think this movie still will probably be better than Thor, but I'm still excited for Thor. This one was like the movie for me for 2022 that I was most anticipating. So I think it delivered in every area. I didn't get to talk about my gripes, but I'll leave that for another time because we're getting a little long here. But I don't think it's a perfect movie, but I do absolutely love the movie.
Yeah, like I said, I liked it as well. Not perfect. It was good. I thought it was a good movie. Like I didn't. I just was confused by the over negativity that some people had about it. It's like okay, it just kind of interesting in my opinion. But yeah, that's a wrap for today's show. Obviously, please tune into previous episodes we've done. We've talked about so many different things. I know a lot of times we do a lot of Marvel and comic book stuff, but we've talked about other different type of movies and other type of sci-fi stuff, just comic book related. So please check every episode out that you may have missed. Also, check out anything that you've missed on Barroom in general. A lot of Bear stuff going on. I think Bear signs a couple of. I think they signed a couple of receivers today. I think one person might be a decent signing because of he's just not had a lot of opportunity. He's made some potential, I think, but he's also has injury issues. Is Pettit, I think. It'll be interesting from what they do what the Bears do the rest of the offseason. Hopefully they get a little bit more, couple of one or two veteran guards on the offensive line for Justin Fields because I kind of fear for his health if they go on with the same offensive line that they had last season. Obviously, scheme can make a difference, but you still need talent. But yeah, check out all the different shows on Barroom. Like I said, not only the Bears, but the White Sox and Cubs, the Blackhawks, cover the Bulls as well. But yeah, that's the wrap for today's show on Science Fiction. Till next time, gentlemen.
All right, have a great evening.